So if we fast forward a little bit, next slide please, and again, we see pyramids like this. I've been here. There are more pyramids surviving in Sudan than there are in Egypt, 223 in all, though they are not as old as the ones in ancient Egypt. These are of a later date. These ones are from about 100 BC. Next slide, please. Then if we go forward, there was a Christian empire in Sudan. This is a reconstruction by a Polish archaeologist of a Christian church from 1000 AD rather. Yeah, again, pretty impressive. Based on the remains, this is what it would have looked like. Next slide, please. Fast forward to Ethiopia. Now this, I always show people this and I usually ask, what is unusual about this building? But we haven't got time for the quiz. It usually takes people a little while to figure it out. But it's not technically a building. It's a carving. The architect and the builders of this 800-year-old church have dug down into the ground and carved the building out of the mountain. Next slide, please. And that's what it looks like inside. Okay, see, that's quite impressive for 800 years ago. Quite beautiful. Next slide, please. This is a stele, where it's 450 family-sized cars, the equivalent of 300 tons. We don't actually know how 2,000 years ago, people in Ethiopia managed A, to carve this block of granite, and B, to get it to stand up without a crane. And can you see, if you look closely, it's imitating a multi-story building. I can't say that they had multi-story buildings, but there's a door at the bottom, and there's what are clearly floors and the imitation of windows going up to the top. Nonetheless, it's fairly impressive to get a 300-ton block of granite to stand up without a crane. And it isn't even the largest stele found in Ethiopia in this time. The largest one found weighs 500 tons, so almost double, but it's no longer standing. Next slide, please. Now, if I showed you these castles at the beginning of this presentation, and we didn't know this was a presentation on African history, we'd probably assume these were in England or Scotland or Norway, but these are Ethiopian castles from the 17th century. Next slide, please. We get to Western Central Africa. This is the heart of where Africans were supposed to display their innate inferiority, because this is where most of the enslaved Africans enslaved in the Americas were taken from. And what do we have here? In 1668, a Dutchman called Olfert de Poor traveled around Central and Western Africa, and he drew some pictures. This is a picture from what today would be Nigeria, the Kingdom of Benin. In 1668, you can see the procession of the king. You can see multi-story buildings in the background.